Wait, Adam has something to say.
What?
Eric,
That's his
I
shtick.
think that.
Shaft?
Pardon me.
Shaft.
We're not just gonna. Well,
No, that's.
I know what it is.
we're not
I
just
was
gonna talk
pigeoning
about.
off.
So
it was
join
a
us.
sweet moment.
So
Sweet
join
moments
us.
with Adam.
Wow.
This
is becoming
another
a skill. You're getting good at this. Are we
sweetest
going to
moment.
keep it up?
The sweetest kill.
Okay.
It is not.
So join us.
Different song.
Wow. All right, Adam, I'm turning you off, and I'm going to do this without you. Welcome back to episode 8 of Jack of the Shadows podcast, where we and our heroes are racing toward the conclusion of The Eye of the World, book 1 of the Wheel of Time series. I'm Eric VC, alongside my brothers in arms, David and Adam. Say hello, boys.
Hello.
And this week, we are covering chapters 43 through 48. This week's podcast will begin with a summary through the view from Dragonmount, and then to everyone's favorite segment, What Shakes Your Willow, followed by Who Wore It Better, In Dreams, Tolkien in the Boys' Room, Coplin of the Week, and Who Leveled Up. So let's launch into this podcast with a view from Dragonmount. This week's view is fairly brief. Where last week we saw our parties rejoin and realize that the Eye of the World was a real thing and apparently not really under attack, but there's some sort of attempt by the Dark One to procure it. This week, the party of 7 dare the ways and barely escape Machin Shin on their way through Faldara, where they are confronted by Pod and Fane, to the Blight. So that takes care of our survey of the plot points for the week, and we can move on to David's favorite segment, What Shakes Your Willow?
Really
That's
hate
right.
that title.
You love it every week.
It's fantastic.
I'm the wind.
Beneath. Never mind. So we will let you go first with your Willow moment for the week.
Like every time we discuss this, I
Take it
I
away.
keep seeing like
Really big show.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Willow. Like that's what I have to imagine to get away from this terrible topic.
Oh, hello. She takes such a character turn.
Yeah. So my moment of the week is Pod and Fane. He's been this Weasley little thing plaguing us throughout this entire book, popping in and out here and there.
Not Ron Weasley.
No. I don't know who that is, but I'm just going to say no.
Wrong.
I have no idea who that is, but thank you for that, whatever that was.
Don't worry
David
about it.
admits a
He's
gap
real
in his
twit.
pop culture knowledge. That's fine. Go ahead.
It's all right. He's been this thorn in our sides, and now we find out that he's
A real
even
thorn.
greater. He's an absolute monster. I mean, he's been a dark friend for over 40 years. He's done all sorts of horrible things. He's closely tied with the Shadow. I mean, he's the Shadow's hound. He is also more than that now, since being, turning his back on the Dark One, but he's like a separate evil, and he's a separate power, and he's all sorts of just wrong. So I find it was just interesting how he was, in the conversations, changing his speech affectations, and how he was just, and he made it through. He made it through first of all, he somehow knew how to get into the Waygates, which is
Right.
something in and of itself. Then he merges with Machin Shin, and Machin Shin's potentially scared of him. I mean, how big of a thing is that? I mean, that's just on a whole nother realm of ridiculous, just in terms of just how evil this guy is. But it's a whole new type of evil that we have no concept of.
Especially with how he's been presented so far, all of a sudden it's like Moraine is actually scared of this guy.
Right. Yeah.
And he's just been like a weaselly.
He'd just been a
weaselly
giant
character
turd
so
burglar
far.
before. Now he is like, he's like, well, he's the strongest evil that we face, with the exception of maybe Balsamon, and that's only been in the dream world. So,
Right.
Or maybe the stuff in Shadar Logoth, but he made it through there. So, I mean, this guy's like indestructible, and then just the the stories of like what he had to endure being folded up inside a Trolloc cook pot. It's no wonder the guy's
brutal.
like, yeah, it's no wonder the guy's insane. It's like if he wasn't so evil, you'd feel sorry for the guy, but this is who he threw a lot in with, so you can't really feel sorry for him. And then, oh, by the way, he's probably murdered dozens and dozens and dozens of people along the way also. So,
Yeah. And like, even if he tried to let it go, he could not let go this compulsion to follow.
Right. He's
Whatever,
a
the
bloodhound now. He's just going to seek it out until the end of time, or until he reaches his quarry, which now he's reached his quarry, but there's nothing he can do about it, and now his quarry's escaped him yet again.
There's a culmination. A culmination of a couple of different things here with him too. The realization that the beggar that was chasing Rand through the streets of Camelin is Podden Fane, and that the thing that they thought that was following them through the ways is him also. So we've had glimpses of him and suggestions of him throughout these chapters
And suspicions, we suspected, but now this is the concrete evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people might have suspected he was this element that was following them. Others might not have. So this is a realization that this thing that is now in front of them has been kind of going on behind the scenes with us, the reader, now for chapters and chapters.
Think about this too, like, what are all the townspeople of Emmons Field going to think when they find out? I was just thinking about the fact that, so he sent the Trollocs in. He's been coming to Emmons Field forever. These people have all known him, been excited about Podden Fane and his news, and now they're going to find out, by the way, he's the one that's responsible for all those deaths.
Not just the deaths, but he's responsible for the complete flip-flop of their world. Like
the town being destroyed, and
that moment is a major moment of attack. They get attacked, so the town gets destroyed. But
I'd be suing for damages.
But Rand, I mean, all three boys leave afterward too. Like they're and this whole story starts with that moment. So in a lot of ways, he's the
catalyst for it.
Yeah, he's the thing that launches this story into motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's kind of interesting the way that he talks a little bit, because he's like switching between just being
a Lugardian and like
just really oily.
Like a high
and
lord.
It kind of reminds me of how Matt was acting for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely some sort of rift in his psyche, in his personality.
He's not all there,
right? He's clearly mad to some degree, and that's the thing that leads Moiraine to want to question him in the first place. And then she touches him and just moves back like she's been struck by lightning. And that leads to the unearthing of all of that information. So big.
Yeah, another aspect I think really interesting about it is that we get this information that a half man came to visit him, and that's like this real big honor, apparently.
Yeah.
In the world of
a frightening honor, I would imagine.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Well,
20-year bonus.
Right.
Check it out.
We've seen the half man, a half man interact with a dark friend before.
Yeah.
When they originally get taken down the Camelin Road, and even he is not comfortable with the interaction. I mean, no human being is.
Oh, you without the face.
Yeah.
Welcome to my party.
Or the eyes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you like some stuffing?
With the maggot face. Yeah.
Right. You oily, gross thing.
Yeah. So yeah.
Come on in, have a cup of coffee.
Podden's not had a good time of it. He's been led around like a dog, been threatened and
worse than a dog.
Been all but cannibalized. So yeah, it's been a rough time, and you feel sorry for him
But
all the
you
way up
don't.
until the point where you realize how absolutely terrible he is.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big moment, not just this week, but for the book in general. All right, Adam.
Yeah, it seems like it.
You're up to bat.
Ooh, Casey at the bat.
This is feeling like a walk.
Will there be joy in Mudville, though? That's the question.
This is feeling like a base on balls.
Yeah. Casey would have taken a base
we
on balls
find
at
out
that
some
point.
really interesting information about the ways, and the fact that male Aes Sedai gave the Ogiers the ways, which is crazy to
Created
think
it for
about.
them, yeah.
And then we also find out that time functions differently in there. So that's really bizarre.
It's like the quantum realm.
And then while they're in there, then all of a sudden there's this thing called Ma Chan Chom, which just
Who? Cheech and Chong?
Ma Chan Chom.
Chelsea and Chong?
They're like,
No, man, Dave's not here.
Yeah. So there's this real gross thing that can just follow you, that just seemed to have come about from the decay of using the powers using this one power in there, the male one power, which was supposed to be, I mean, that's what it seems like. It was supposed to be this great thing. These male Aes Sedai were there. They handed off this little trinket so that the Ogiers could be able to fiddle with it. Yeah. And then we find out that, some of the Red Aja, are going to blame the male Aes Sedai for the destruction of the world because they all stood too long in the setting.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what brought off the breaking of the world. So it's just really interesting, different sort of, I suppose, for lack of a better word, magic that we're finding out about. That seems to be a real sweet way to travel. And then, by the way, the Trollocs use it. And they've been destroying things in here. They've just been tagging these waygates left and right.
So that's another one of the major questions of the book that gets answered, because up to this point we've been wondering how on earth, because think about how far they are when they arrive at Faldara from Emond's Field.
Yeah.
The Blight is so far away from Emond's Field.
They're so far away that the only way that they can get there is is essentially time travel through the ways. And yet an army full of Trollocs somehow snuck all the way down to Emond's Field without being noticed. And we've been wondering all this time, how on earth are these Trollocs wandering around Westland without
they were in Camelin also.
Right, exactly. They're outside of Camelin. Remember, they disappeared from Emond's Field and then reappeared just outside of Baerlon, I believe. So they keep ducking in and out, and there's no indication of how they're traveling so invisibly, and this is the revelation of exactly what's been going on.
Which is slightly weird that no one thought of that before. What else could it be?
Someone knew about these things.
Right. I mean, but they had thought the waygates, I suppose, were sealed and couldn't get in, but...
Well, look at how reticent Loyal is to use them. I mean, he flat out refuses... until he gets coaxed by Moiraine a couple of times before he's willing to actually even go there. And even at this point, his knowledge of how to work the weights is completely academic. He has no real experience with this whatsoever.
Well, it wasn't apparently for the minions of the dark.
Right.
That's weird.
Right. They've somehow learned, and the only thing that I can think of to explain that is that, like we mentioned, it is a product of Saidin, which is tainted by the Dark One somehow, and we see evidence of that when Moiraine uses the one power in the ways to fight Machin Shin, and the power that she uses is all tainted and it has black flecks in it. It's a completely different environment.
Well, that's the question. So it was obviously created and it was tainted, but they talk about the waygates were created and the things within it were created, but it's almost like that space was always there and they're accessing it, because they talk about some things and some elements in it are older than the War of the Thousand Years and that sort of stuff. So I'm wondering, is this like a quantum realm? Is it a space that's always been there and they created the access to get into it? I'm a little confused as to what that place really is.
That's interesting. I like that you're trying to get... Yeah, I'm just imagining. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to bring up. It's a very, very strange place.
It is, and I don't know if they answer any of that. You know,
Who
they,
knows?
they kind of
Maybe we'll
vaguely
figure it
talk
out. Maybe
about
there'll
it.
be some sort of scientific method for it.
Well, it's
But
almost
the other
like
thing,
they don't know.
one other little part of it is that Boyle just brings up the fact that, oh yeah, so like behind that way gate is a mystery. I don't know what's back there, and it's just this spot that's right there. Like you could walk
the
around.
literal back of the Waygate, yeah.
Yeah. But he's like, yeah, I don't know what's back there.
Well, and that is
You could get lost forever. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
exactly.
further development of what Rand witnesses when they come to that bridge that's been severed, and he looks across at the other bridge, and there are no supports holding the bridge up whatsoever.
That's a bit frightening.
And
Yeah, no, that's so great. That's
if you don't
crazy.
like heights, don't go to that place.
that is an echo of the White Bridge, which is also this
Exactly, yeah.
giant thin bridge with barely any support.
But at least that's connected to land.
Right, but they talk about how wafer thin
obviously power
White Bridge
created, yeah.
is. It's made by
'cause Rand-
Ogier as well.
Rand looked at it and he had this familiar feeling of what it looked like, and yeah, that seemed like it was White Bridge because it was this power that was
And then they talk about the fact that they travel upward in a spiral, and it seems like some of these landings that they're on are directly above the landing that they just came up from.
It's like an Escher picture in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. It is definitely surreal.
And if you fell, you would die of starvation. Like, I don't think you'd ever hit
because you
anything.
wouldn't hit the
Probably.
bottom.
Yeah.
All right.
How horrible is that?
The thing that
bad.
I found most interesting for the week is that we've been going now for 30 or 40 chapters, and there's been this heavy cloud over all three parties pretty much ever since they are attacked just outside
What three parties are you referring
Berlon. Well, the parties get segmented.
Okay.
The party gets segmented and they rejoin, and there's been this somberness to everything. I mean, Matt and Rand have been sick, and then Rand has had the dagger poison. Perrin has been dealing with finding out Perrin's been dealing with finding out that he's some sort of supernatural element that he doesn't like, and he's been coming to terms with that. Egwene has been basically dealing with Perrin. Nynaeve is never happy. And
Doesn't seem like it gets much better for in these chapters.
neither
either.
is
No.
Lan, and Moiraine is just this constant,
Awesomeness.
very, very neutral source of emotion. She doesn't get too high, she doesn't get too low, and yet finally here
That's why I like her.
we get some sense of these individuals feeling like they are back in Emond's Field. We get a very brief moment where they start teasing each other, specifically revolving around Egwene's interaction with
Oh, yeah. Right. The Tinker. Aram.
right Aram, and then and then Rand's interaction with Elsa Grimwell. And so there are these pseudo paramours. I mean, these aren't real relationships that these two get involved in any way, but it's a point for Perrin and Matt to tease both Egwene and Rand about. And we get a moment of levity that we haven't had in forever in these chapters. Yeah, and it is fleeting because obviously it gets enveloped very quickly by the fact that they're about to travel through some sort of unknown time portal to
And like Satan's brothers chasing them.
right, and then they
brother spot.
and then they land on, they're going to come out of there and travel to the doorsteps of hell. It is a really fun moment of levity for all of the characters.
Yeah, it's a great moment. They're just egging each other on.
Yeah, like
Really, it's fantastic.
high
It's
school
really nice
kids.
writing just to break it up.
Yeah.
yes, but it is.
And then that candle is
fleeting.
snuffed out.
Yep.
Poof! Guess what? You have Gollum following you.
It's been swallowed by the waves.
So, speaking of another moment of levity, let's talk a little bit about our Who Wore It Better for the week. Let's see if you can identify this guy.
All right.
He wore a bright yellow cloak edged in red over his armor with the black hawk on the breast and a yellow surcoat bearing a gray owl. He wore no helmet and was bareheaded. Truly, for his hair had all been shaved, except for the top knot tied with a leather cord.
It's either Ragan or it's
Algamore.
Schmiggerty book.
what is his name?
Eldemar.
It's one
Flip
of the two.
His name
Hammer.
is
It's one of the two
Eldemar.
Shinarans.
It's not Elgamar.
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you, and Elgamar is not a name of a character in this book.
I kind of want it to be now.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Gargamel?
Okay.
Was that what you were going for? It's either Peace, Favor Your Sword, Ragan. It's not him.
Azrael.
It's yeah. It's the other one. What's his name?
All right, this is enough. It's Ingtar.
Ingtar, yeah. All right. With his shaved
I have
head.
no idea where I came up with Eldemar.
I don't know, but Algamar's our new secret character. Algamar.
Sounds like Gargamel.
I think you're trying to say Ingtar and you got
Algamar.
Algamar.
Oh yeah, no,
out.
you were trying to say Ingtar for sure. Okay, so we had another dream sequence this week. So this is our in dreams moment for the week.
Yes, more Balsamon.
Yeah, it's fleeting because Moiraine has provided them with the talisman in order to prevent these things from happening. Just deny the Dark One and it'll all go away. Oh, but it doesn't.
Seems easy enough.
Oh, that doesn't work. So we come back to the room in which the original dream occurred, which is interesting. Rand tries to once just denying Baalzamon doesn't work, he seeks the flame in the void, which he seems to be doing more and more frequently in these last couple of chapters, which sort of works. It calms him down, but obviously the dream doesn't go away. But what's the most interesting element of this thing?
Well, once again, it's not just Rand dreaming this.
Well, right, but we see the dream through Rand.
Right.
What I think is the most interesting is that he brings up to the fact that there are these black Aja that have been working for 2,000 years.
Something happens before that.
Well,
the
is
three
this
figures.
Yes.
is this your interpretation
three
of what's the
figures.
most interesting thing, or our interpretation of what's the most important interesting thing?
That's the
'Cause-
most interesting to me. I mean,
Right.
It's very interesting. But mine is
Eric's
the
like, no,
black
I'm
Aja.
sorry. Your interesting
That's
fact is
black
wrong.
Aja.
Mine is right.
Right, that's right, because it's my game. Yeah, there are three figures on the table, and each one of them has some sort of signifying element: the dagger, the wolf, and the sword.
Yeah. So they're identifying who the three people are, but he doesn't know who the three people are.
Right, because the faces are still
Which one
muddled.
are you?
Right.
Yeah.
The faces of the characters are still indefinite, while the wolf that stands next to Perrin has full detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Matt,
And the question
Matt
is,
does
why
the
does he
Matt
know
thing.
that?
Well, because he's seen the wolf multiple times, because every time he tries to go to the dream, there's a wolf there.
Right. But it's like he doesn't know that's Perrin.
Right.
But then how can he not see
Dark
the
one,
face?
isn't it?
That's confusing to me. Is like the face is then like Perrin's face shrouded in his dreams?
Well, it's not
Yeah,
It's not so
They are
much.
shrouded.
It's not so much the face of the character. I think he's searching for something within the characters, and that's what's indefinite. there's some sort of identifying element of.
There's specific mention of the faces being blurry, and then when Matt touched his face became available to be seen.
I don't remember that.
Rand,
And then Matt breaks out and he says he knows who I am, Rand.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rand looks into the mirror, and he can see himself better than he's ever been able to see himself in that dream mirror before. And it says he feels like if he squinted, he could actually identify himself. So he's becoming clearer, but he's still not identified by by Baalzamon, I guess, who's controlling the dream. He still doesn't quite know. He hasn't, thoroughly identified these three individuals.
And so, Adam, you're talking about the Black Aja. It's like kind of like
Yeah.
as if they didn't have enough to worry about. Now, and once again, Father of Lies, titled that for a reason. And this may not be something he's lying about, but he's putting a seed in. He's, especially knowing these Emmons Fielders, probably, as he does, having this great disdain for just about anything that's not Emmons Field. And so now he's putting this seed in there of, oh, by the way, you don't like Aes Sedai. I'm going to give you an even bigger reason why not to like them, because they might be my minions.
Well, he doesn't
that's
suggest
true.
that they're all
That's
his
true.
minions.
It's
He
like-
suggests
No, but he
that-
suggests
by the way-
they might be being the ones helping you. For all you know, Moiraine
your,
could be Black
definition.
Aja.
I like your explanation of the Emmons Fielders. They sound like real farm-to-table folk.
Yeah.
they are. They're Blue
They
Apron.
say words like they say words like these eggs are farm fresh.
Right.
And these eggs aren't.
Yeah.
And that fruit that you have on your little rickety basket there is not good.
That's not stamped from the Emmons Field. That's trash.
Five Kings and wherever else they complained about the fruit.
If it ain't
you're
Edmonds
smoking
Field, it's
Marlboro,
crap.
huh?
This raises a point that I've raised consistently throughout these chapters, which is: do we really trust Moiraine? Are we sure that she's a good
hold on.
guy?
From my
Can we talk
standpoint,
about- well, yeah,
actions
sure,
always
but
speak
can we-
louder than the father of lies words. So yes,
I mean, she is leading
everything
them
she has
into
done.
the blight.
she is, but she could have done so many things along the way.
Unless there's something specific that's supposed to happen to them in the blight.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of supposition right there. That's
yeah.
a lot of.
She could be a deep sell.
That'd be really
I
deep.
understand where you're coming from. Like, I understand it, but that'd be
Because
real.
remember, yeah, she sacrificed
a
then a
real
whole
kick in the
bunch of
nuts,
dark
Jordan.
friends and minions to get them there when she could have just taken them through the ways. Because
It's a
we already know the
possibility.
evil knows how to
but
use
she
the
needed
ways.
them scared and willing enough to do it.
No, she didn't. She could have just clonked them on the head at any given point and taken them along the way.
Maybe they need to be awake when they get there.
Okay, well, now we're getting more crazy supposition here. That rabbit hole could keep going.
I'm just trying to think ahead of the story.
I agree with Dave, and I also agree with you, Eric.
well,
Look at my
that's no
center
help to
way.
anyone.
Basically, Adam's saying he's Switzerland.
No. I understand what Dave is saying. Like, Moiraine up to this point has just been presented as I know what's going on. I'm going to take care of it. Oh my gosh, I'm dealing with a bunch of babies.
And just look at, look at Elida.
But there is a
Elida is trusted by a queen,
possibility
and yet
she is leading
obviously,
them down
yeah,
to cook them in a pot somewhere.
right. The
Yeah, maybe she's
primrose
letting
path,
Maybe she's letting them stew.
right? Like pot
Getting
and
those
fane
oils
in
nice and juicy.
a little trollic pot,
Yeah.
folded up so that he can go seepy.
So he can be stewed in
Yeah.
his own juices.
So
But there was also some more interesting stuff that we learned about the Dark One. I mean, it's all the same, but that we learned about the Dark One in that dream, and it's just him saying more and more about each time you've stood like this, you thought you could deny me. So
Yeah, it's that
Dave is also
whole
saying you're saying father of lies, so it could just be all lies. you know?
recycled lives thing. It's the whole,
yeah, it's a Buddhist
yes,
idea.
yes.
Yeah, but and then each time in the end which is the master. It's just some real scary words.
But what's interesting is, but he says this time will be different. So this plays back into our guess earlier
What does that
that
mean?
he is going to try to use something
Something.
in order to stop the Wheel of Time, and it sure seems like it's.
well, yeah,
it's gonna
because
be
Moraine
the
earlier
eye of the world.
Moraine brought up like the fact that it seems like maybe he has power to, or maybe he's gonna try to get the eye of the world working for him somehow, like being able to touch it out of his wherever the heck he is.
Yeah.
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 And once again, we see the effect of the dream world.
If he has found some way, she's like asking if he has found some way to do this.
In the dream world, once
So-
again, is affecting people in real life because Rand's hand's bleeding.
Yeah. Spooky stuff.
There's also one of the other things that I found interesting about this segment is he's trying to get Rand to side with him by feeding into Rand's ego and ambition and telling him how great he can be. He does not seem to have done a very good job of audience analysis at this point, because if we know anything about Rand, it's that his greatest ambition is to be a shepherd.
Yeah.
He's
He
like,
doesn't want
he-
you
he
can
needed-
be a
he needed more
king.
recon.
You can have thousands of people below your feet, and they will all worship you.
And Rand's like, are they sheep?
Right, exactly. And Rand is like, do I
That's
get
what I want.
do I get a staff with that?
I want some mutton and
And a nice curvy staff that I can walk around with.
some curds and whey, and I'll be
Nothing.
set.
Nothing but mutton.
Lost. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't know who he's talking to, which I think is really funny because he keeps
Well,
going
I mean,
back
that
to
makes
this.
sense. I mean, isn't that like
Right, you would
the
think.
story of
Right,
good and evil?
right, exactly. You would think that. Right, that's very true. That's very true.
Although I suppose, well, anyhow.
You suppose what?
I suppose that Satan or Lucifer would be a little more cunning.
Probably, but we also realize that this is not.
The snake appeals to Eve in the same sort of way.
Yeah,
you
but
will
Eve
know
is- Eve would be
everything,
like-
and
Well, apparently, that's what Eve wanted.
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
That's not what Rand
let's
wants.
Get into
Right.
good and evil.
but he doesn't know that.
Rand wants to know everything if it's about
He
sheep.
doesn't know who he's talking to.
He's like, I will teach you how to cure sheep's disease.
Rand wants to know all about, and he also wants to know about parents' love life and how parents so good with the lady.
All right, let's dig into a little Tolkien in the boys' room. So there are a ton.
This isn't the mine.
Right.
Doom.
Yes, there are a ton of
They call
Tolkien-esque
it the
moments
mine.
here.
The mind.
We have that, which we'll discuss first, and then we have Podden Fane, who is incredibly similar to Gollum,
But so much more.
and his experience is
With a
very
little more
very similar to
Power,
Gollum.
apparently.
Yeah, I think there's
He's
more.
like Gollum combined with the Ring Wraith.
I think there's more. Well, Gollum has ring wraith powers, so let's start there.
Would you want to hang out with Gollum at a party for like 2 hours?
No.
No,
He tried
Nothing
to
bad's
eat you.
gonna happen. You're not gonna die. You're just hanging out with Gollum.
why
You're
would
like,
you?
hey,
Why would you
how
say
was
you're
that-
not
how
gonna
was that
die?
300 years. Huh?
Why would you? Why would you
Yeah, I
assume
guess
you're
those are
not
too
gonna
many-
die?
Those are too many parameters.
Right.
Yeah. And not only that, Gollum would
All
not
right,
be the
how about
conversationalist
Mindhunter?
either.
You
Not
get to
just-
interview him in a prison.
I mean, oh yeah, that I would do.
No. He would smell.
Absolutely, I would. Yes,
Yeah,
I
you
would do
smell like
that.
fish and you hate fish.
Exactly.
That's a personal problem.
Yeah, I would be vomiting
so
all over
good.
myself being within
You
5
would.
feet
You
of him.
smell awful. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, Gollum's got
All right.
some stories
They
to tell.
bathed him.
I don't
They
think
bathed him
Gollum
in
does
your
have
meeting
stories to tell.
in
His
a-
Oh, yeah.
brain's kind of wasted away to that point.
No,
he's not a
he's-
conversationalist anymore.
So the similarities between he and Podden Fane is that he also has been dragged off
He's a hound
and
also.
reformed by the evil
Oh,
character in the story in order to
For different purposes.
in order to chase down in order to chase down the source of power in the story. So Gollum is chasing the ring, Podden Fane is chasing the three boys.
The three boys.
He's chasing a mystery.
Gollum has been
It is, yeah.
Gollum has been tortured in the same way that that Podden Fane has suffered torture.
I think the biggest difference is Podden Fane chose this life. The Ring chose Gollum.
that
Well, who knows? I mean, Gollum kind of like he decided to kill his buddy.
right. We
He
know
did,
from
but that was the
Gollum's-
power of the Ring taking over Gollum. I mean, Gollum may have had some evil tendencies. Podden Fane sold his soul to the Dark One to begin with. He
Well, isn't
wanted
that
power.
murder
He wanted
in general?
everything. He made that choice.
Podden Fane's Gollum's path is a little bit less. The choice is less obvious for sure. Yes, Podden Fane made deliberate choices to get power, I guess.
Which is why-
I
which is
mean,
why
he's
you
a
can- you
long
can-
way from that.
And even in Gandalf's eyes,
Well-
which is why you could have some sort of pity on Gollum, because Gollum
True.
was being used. Podden Fane, you can have no pity for that guy. You start to, and you're instantly come back to, he is just awful. He's just, I mean, there's no other.
You are just terrible.
I mean, you are pond scum. He's
Yeah,
just.
but I mean, they all made that choice. Like you can have that pity, but they all inherently made the same choice, and it was to follow evil
But see, that's the difference, I think, with Gollum.
for gain.
I think the choice was
no,
made
Gollum did
for
the same
him.
thing. That
Well-
evil is still going to influence you. It's not like you're going to post up in front of the Dark One and he's not going to have some sort of evil power of influence that the Ring does.
I think
Anyhow, this is not a.
I think there is a
You can
I
move
think
on.
there is a difference, and I do think the difference is a difference of which character deserves pity. I think that's one of the central themes of Lord of the Rings
Yes.
is, and like you mentioned, David, Gandalf brings that up specifically. You know, his pity stayed Bilbo's hand, and then it seems like for the longest time that pity is going to lead to the downfall of the world because Gollum steals the ring, and yet. It's because Gollum steals the ring that Frodo is able to get control of himself and push Gollum into Mount Doom. Here, it's pretty. Moiraine makes it pretty clear that it might seem like Podden Fane is pitiable, but is pitiful, but he's not. That he has done awful things, and that he did make a clear-cut decision.
And he keeps doing them. He's just a
Well,
he's a bad
Well,
man.
I mean, it seems like he's had things.
right. One could
I don't
argue
know,
how much
building up.
choice does he really have in his life at this point, and that I think then we get back to the similarities between these two hounds.
But yeah, he's definitely a Gollum figure for sure.
Yeah, because he's possibly following him in the ways. Like,
No, he's definitely following
Moria.
them in the ways, and then this brings us to the other similarity, which is the minds of Moria and the ways, which seem like really, really similar mezzanine to me.
Yeah, I mean, one's a real life place in the real world of the Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's a concrete, not metaphysical space. I think the biggest similarity I can see is the way they describe the mines in terms of like the bridges and all that kind of stuff. But let's face it, one is something that someone just created out of thin air. I mean, it's like a...
well, I think
or maybe just tapped
is,
into, who we don't even know.
Well, I think a similarity is the fact that Loyal is saying things like, wow, this used to look real pretty.
Yeah.
There were some trees here.
There
were some things growing over there. And then it got taken over. And that was like the same thing
Gimli.
with Moria.
Yes,
And you
Gimli.
have the fact that it used to be these giant feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Gimli
It
is
was
constantly
glorious.
talking about
And
how
all you have
beautiful
left is
things
this
were,
weird structure that's infected.
and how the minds have gotten decayed. They are both shortcuts to you okay there?
The pack of rabid dogs coming for you?
Is the kennel about to be overrun by the prisoners?
Seriously.
You like dags?
Yeah, right. Dags. I dags.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Snatched. They're both shortcuts to get to the place to which they want to get that nobody
True.
wants to go through, or at least the main people that are aware of. Actually, Gimli did want to go and visit the mines,
Desperately.
but
Gimli was.
They're going to have
all
a good old
about it.
time with his family and friends.
Boromir did not. And
Neither did Gandalf, because Gandalf knew.
Loyal doesn't want to go through. Then they get in there, and they're being chased by Gollum in the same fashion that they are being chased by Podden
Gollum
Fane.
wasn't chasing.
Yes.
No,
Well,
Gollum.
he's following. That's semantics.
The descriptions that he does here are really cool, and the fact that it seems like any light that you have in there even is
The light is just swallowed.
Right.
is being sucked out. It's like being eaten by this darkness around.
it's being
you. That would be-
suppressed.
and you just
Yeah,
It's being
ugh.
squeezed.
I imagine it like being in like if you've ever been in a deadened room from sound, like when you're in a studio recording, like you're in that space,
Yeah.
even though it's huge and cavernous, like your voice just is muted.
Yeah.
Just like the light
exactly.
is muted.
Just huge, and
Right.
then just this
It'd
weird
be like being in a
sickening
sound booth.
feeling.
Yeah, it's such a weird feeling the first time you ever, or one of those isochronal chambers or whatever they call it. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah.
When you step inside one of those things, everything just sucks out. It's such a weird feeling. Like I
such a
imagine that's like
weird
you step into that place and it's
feeling.
just like
Well,
where everything
imagine
dies.
imagine feeling that, but knowing that you're in an incredibly voluminous room.
That's what I mean. It's like
Right.
the opposite effect.
Right.
Like you're in this giant space,
That
but
would
it's
be-
so tight around
That
you.
would be really odd. So, and there are similarities.
And then there are these floating bridges,
Right. Connected to nothing.
right.
and you're just going up.
And the mines of Moria have these incredibly long, thin bridges where they're overlooking giant caves that they don't know where the end is.
Well, thankfully, a Balrog didn't come for them in the mines. Just the Machin Shin.
Well, right, exactly, and then
Right.
now there is a significant difference
That was
here
sweet.
in that the major
Sweet the tear.
leader doesn't sacrifice themselves
Right.
to the evil that that sort of comes
That
out
men
of
do.
the mine.
Lives long and on and on.
But there is that major confrontation.
Spoiler alert, in
moment.
case you've never read Lord of the Rings.
What?
And
Who knows what about Gandalf?
there's just a major similarity here. It's like a rite of passage almost for these characters. So I don't know how many more of these moments we're going to have that are like this, because we start getting these books start to become more and more their own thing.
Well, there's also the Tree of Life. I don't know, whatever.
of
whatever that
Endosora.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is that similar
sweet.
to?
Oh, it's a white tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's also
Yeah.
similar to in Terry Brooks' other fantasy series. There's a thing called the Elcris tree, which is the source of the life for the elves.
Ooh, I like that.
And he uses something
We
similar.
need more of that.
Yeah.
And the Tree of Life is obviously a long-standing idea in story.
Right.
I'd completely forgotten about that. That is another good element. Okay.
Not to be outdone also by
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones with this goofy tree.
Oh, right.
Oh, GOT.
That tree is
And some real annoying ravens.
is a religious
The same amount
totem.
of
Who
annoying
somehow
ravens.
became king. Who somehow became useful.
Well,
Started
anyhow.
that nonsense.
Speaking
Neither
of
here nor
useless,
there.
Coplin of the week.
Oh,
Who is each one of our Coplins of the week?
gosh.
Well, mine is Pod and Fane. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really think I need to explain much else.
No.
He's been a major thorn in the side of our
a great
characters,
Exodus
unbeknownst to them up to this point. He's led Trollocs against them, and
He's just awful.
yeah.
He's a plague.
So
Is that yours, Dave?
beat that.
No, it isn't. So mine's interesting.
I know it.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry, mine wasn't.
No, mine's interesting just
No,
from
I'm kidding.
mine every week has been
Not at all.
Nynaeve. And it is again this week, but that's starting to change. So obviously, I think young girl in love. So maybe part
Get
of
out of my mind.
maybe part of what we're dealing with her being such an annoying.
My love for you is way out of line.
Speaking of annoying,
Oh no.
maybe part of that is the young girl in love with this guy who
Better
is
run!
a stone. I will slap you. Who's a stone wall? I mean, she's in love with like a concrete wall, and
And here is a
I love
chink
that
in the
description.
wall.
yeah, I
Wow.
mean,
Hello,
I love you.
little
Look at
chink.
me.
so now and then she has this scene with Lan where Lan's basically like, a no,
Yes, that's very true. He is
I'm
like
gonna
a
shut
no.
you down. You're
Yeah.
in love with me. Too bad, so sad. I'm in love with the war that I can't win.
And Rand is like, "Oh, I've been listening to this conversation up until now. I
Right.
shouldn't watch her
Yeah,
cry."
that's like when like Rand's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be here.
hey, creep.
Yeah.
I may be right. Yeah.
Speaking, I mean, and so she was really annoying as usual up to this point, and then you get a bit of humanity from her, and it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe this is part of it. And speaking of
You
Lan,
just described her humanity as being in love with a brick wall.
well, it's not her fault she's
Hey.
in love with the brick wall. We all
Right.
choose to love or love chooses us, however
What
you
is
want to
the
look at
word
it.
for that?
I mean,
There has to
it
be
is
a
what it
different-
is.
She's not in
but-
love with the brick house.
Yeah. House.
Yeah. All right.
So, but I think also pigeoning off that if I can really quickly,
Also,
how amazing is that backstory on Lan?
oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that's
Oh wait, hold on.
fascinating.
We're gonna get
Oh,
there.
wait.
We're gonna
Oh,
get
yeah.
there.
Adam. I guess that's Adam's who leveled up this week.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna press pause on that one, and we'll come back to that. Yeah.
No.
Let's just pretend I
No,
didn't.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm
delve
saying
into that.
I'm agreeing with you, Dave, that she was mine of the week.
Okay.
But it's because when they were in the ways, like all of the bridge in the front is just broken. And then she's like, "Is this what you brought us? Is this what you brought us to?" I said,
Right.
Dirty ice to die.
This is where you brought us.
Right.
I knew it.
Look, just get some moistened bint. That's what I think of
God.
every time I think of Nynaeve. It's-
Joey's chewing gum.
I know.
Barbara, Joey's chewing gum in class.
right.
Yeah, jeez.
He's
Go kick
like
rock.
wet sand in my underwear.
You're really burning my pancakes this week, Nynaeve.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah, but she does have that. She does have that moment at the end.
We caught a
But you're
couple.
right, Dave. She's in love with a brick wall.
She is, and we caught a couple moments with her in the last two segments we've done. We've caught a couple
Yes.
glimpses of humanity. So I can only
She's
hope
been moping.
Yeah, I can only hope we'll get more of that because otherwise I'm hoping she gets put in a Trolloc cook pot.
We've also
I love this. This is what you love.
this is the ultimate punishment now is just to bend somebody up and fold them
Right.
into a small Trolloc cook pot.
Oh, it's horrible.
Hold on. If this does happen, are you going to be so happy?
No, you'll regret those words. If
I
this
will be
actually
sad
happens.
for Egwene because she's probably the only one that would care too much. Rand, Matt, and Perrin would all be like, "Oh, that sucks."
Well, Moiraine apparently
Oh,
thinks
but-
she's got some amazing, you know,
at least the wisdom's not bossing us
one
around
power
anymore.
ability. We've also been getting a little bit of
Yeah.
Perrin too, like very little. But every time we get a little
Yeah.
bit of Perrin, it's the fact that he's like, it seems like he's fully embraced his wolf dream because he keeps saying things about, he keeps turning into James Hatfield.
Or Hetfield, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't know who James Hatfield is.
He's his stepbrother.
Good buddies.
He's a
My
man.
name is James Hatfield.
He's a man who wears a stovepipe hat.
He does a little jig off to the side. Hi, I'm James Hatfield.
Perrin keeps catching him muttering things about wolves and about aggression and stuff like that. So,
Oh no! What's also funny is Matt straight up was like, "I'm like really worried about Perrin right now.
While he clutches his dagger,
What's up with Perrin?"
he's thumbing the
And I
Ruby
also
Hill.
like to
I'm
bring up
really
the fact-
worried about Perrin.
Hey, Rand, I don't know if you've noticed this, but that Perrin guy is acting mighty weird.
Say yes.
But no one's talking to him.
Don't look over here. I'm not clutching anything underneath my
Right.
cloak.
No one is asking him, "Hey man,
are you okay?
Yeah.
what's up?"
Perrin's being weird.
Yeah.
Don't look at my dagger.
Yeah,
Well,
but no,
he's
like,
also
not
wandering
really-
around looking at the floor constantly so nobody can see his eyes. So I don't know if you'd want to walk up to him anyway.
No,
He's
no,
already
no.
feeling incredibly
No,
self-conscious.
One thing that I think is really cool about him is that when he was in the waves, he's like, "There's no good hunting here, but
Right.
whatever."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's getting a little bit wolfish.
Well, and then
He's like, "I'm good.
when they're heading into
I'm
fall,
fine with whatever happens."
when they're heading into Fall
Oh,
Dara,
right.
they're looking at the
The
towns
the
and
curtains, and he
there's
spots
a
the
scythe out in the
scythe in the middle of nowhere
right.
with the rust on
a
it.
plow, right, that has rust on it. That he's like, well, you guys should have seen the rust on this. And they're like, dude, that's 300 yards away. We
Right.
can't see that from here.
They're like, "That's a scythe? Is that what that is?"
You dummies.
And meanwhile, the girl's like,
He
"You
also
men
said-
are morons.
Right.
You
He
didn't
also
see the
said there's-
curtains."
He's
The
also like, yeah.
The curtains, lad.
No, he was also like, "Oh, the blight. Yeah, no big deal. There's good good
Yeah,
hunting.
I hear there's
outside,
good
right
hunting in
outside
the blight. There's some rotten, squishy leaves.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Adam, who's your Coplin?
He said it was Nynaeve.
Oh,
That-
it was
I just
Nynaeve.
said it.
Okay. I just
was
said
Nynaeve.
that. So last but not least, who leveled up?
I have broken trend here. I had like 15 million
have?
weeks in a row of Rand, and now I'm going to land because my goodness
Because it
gracious.
rhymes with Rand.
Listen to that guy's story. I mean, just crazy information you're finding out about, like, fascinating, just the story of his parents and what had happened in Malkir and what led to Rand's, having to leave the Blight and just kind of all this stuff and
Yeah. So what is it?
just crazy detail about how, the family was divided and there was,
You had the father who is the king, and then you had his brother who is his best friend, and then
Right,
his brother
and-
marries this crazy woman.
crazy wench who poisons things
Right.
and she
Yeah,
ate the
what's
bad
up?
fruit.
So
like, wasn't his brother fine? But he
His
just
brother
married-
was fine, and
wasn't his
she-
brother.
She convinces him to go ahead and take half their army or 3/4 of their army into the Blight to
Dark
fight
friend,
the Dark
perhaps.
Well, she doesn't. No, she's
We
in
don't
love
know.
with the Dark friend.
Yeah.
She has that happens afterward.
She's got a dark friend lean.
Yeah.
For sure.
She leans toward the dark.
Yeah.
He does lean.
Yeah, and
She
she's
tans on the left side.
yeah, exactly. So that happens. The people are sacrificed and going off and fighting the guys in the Blight. So they lose 20,000 lances or 5,000 lances or
They
whatever it
lose
is. So there's
almost all their army.
So there's not people to hold them back. And, as a result, Land's parents, christen him to become the Diadem Battle Lord. And he's got to go off with soldiers, and only 2 of them make it to get him back to the land to save him. And then he is raised to be like the kung fu master of the world. Like
Yes.
he's taught martial arts
Yep.
and sword play from
Yeah.
birth, and he might as well have come out with the womb with like a sword in each hand. It's crazy.
He is kung fu. He's lonely master.
Yeah, I mean he's
Well, I guess that's what happens when you're born and there's a sword put in your hand right away.
You're born that, and not only that, you don't have a kingdom anymore because they all sacrificed their lives to save the rest of the world.
And you, pretty much.
That's some big like
They
things to
sacrificed their
live up
lives
to
to save you.
to
Were you
save
gonna
you
say big
and
up?
the rest of the world.
Big up, land.
And now
Yeah.
and now his kingdom is
So now
been-
he's a man with a war.
his kingdom has been completely taken
yeah.
over by the blight. It exists in
Yeah,
the blight.
and not only that, he goes back to visit his homeland,
Wait a
and there's like
second,
giant
what does that
snaky things in the
remind you of?
water that just sound really gross. Like the snaky things had tentacles that had hands on them. I mean, how creepy is that? And that's his homeland.
Yeah.
All right, Adam. Who leveled up
Yeah.
for you?
Oh, Pot and Fane leveled up for me.
Okay.
You're going with it.
What the heck?
You're got a dark lean there,
He did-
Adam.
he did,
You're
yeah,
tanning on the left.
exactly.
I don't even know what that
No,
means, but I'm going to
this
keep
isn't
using
a
it now.
positive thing. I'm not saying it's a positive leveling up, but he leveled up.
Yeah, he
that's for
did.
sure. That guy's got some weirdo powers now.
He does.
Yeah, he has weirdo powers.
Yeah.
Like what? Well, my question is, so he's a peddler. What is he peddling?
Death,
He's not.
Hey, look,
He's not right.
Evil?
Yes, he's not peddling anymore.
it's-
Lies
so he's
and
basically the
misfortune?
dude- No, but he was once upon a time.
He
a
gave up
peddler.
peddlerhood
So
when he led
his-
the Trollocs into Emmons Field.
No.
and they smashed his goods.
Right.
And he's all
Listen,
upset
my
about that.
point
But
is-
he's the one that brought the evil in, but he's upset about the fact they smashed his stuff.
Well, they had an agreement.
This
Right.
is my character of the week. So he used to be the dude that was like every little bit. So
Right.
he's just coming into town trying to sell all these stupid trinkets,
What's
and
the
then
name
all of
of
a
that
sudden he
character?
gets infected with the god of war, some sort of weird disease.
You think
But
he's
now
the
God
Do
god
you
of?
think
these
he's, you think
great
he's Doc
powers.
Terminus?
He's like Loki. Yeah, there we go. Right. Yeah, every little piece.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can get cockroaches to do some stuff for him.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And then he.
I mean, shout out to cockroaches. I'm sure you have some
Right.
reason to be here.
He would talk to them and then he would eat them.
Yeah, gleefully.
Yeah. Well, that's my guy.
That's a good pick.
My person who leveled up is whatever that thing was in the lake with all the tentacles in the hand.
It's so creepy.
Oh,
What?
that's so
Oh,
weird.
so
What
gross.
is that? It is. It has
It's
a
funny that I
giant.
segued into that.
And the fact that Rand is like, oh, wait, were those some hands?
Were those hands?
It has. It's
just-
too big to be in the water. First of all,
Tiny little lake and this giant
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in it.
right? It's phosphorescent. It has a
gosh.
stinger on its head that
There's
has a
another
bunch
Tolkien
of
moment.
tentacles. Yeah, yep, absolutely. It's the creature in the lake.
Oh, yeah.
It has a
Guardian
bunch of tentacles
But
coming off of
grosser.
it that has hands on it.
You know what it's like? It's like Jordan takes
Well, it's like-
Tolkien
It's-
and one ups
it's
him.
Lovecraft.
He's writing this stuff. He's like, "You think you got that one good? Pfft, I'm gonna give this thing hands on tentacles."
Right. It is sort of Lovecrafty too, for sure.
Well, no, the amazing thing, though, to me, is that it's such a strange detail to bring up that is so creepy.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. How
so
far
creepy.
away do you
Such a
think
good
they are
little
from this
element.
lake? Like 100
no
yards?
Maybe.
300
Man,
yards?
I think
were-
Jordan
that
does a
did not seem like
fantastic
a good
job of
play.
making your skin crawl. Like
I mean,
the stuff
there,
with Pod and
obviously.
Fane and this, like he goes to this level of detail that just makes you like really, or at least me, really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they have to sleep
Yeah,
next
and
to this lake.
No,
And he does it in
I would
very-
not be sleeping anywhere near that lake.
Moiraine puts wards around it so that
Yeah.
they'll know if that
I'm gonna be
thing
like, you're
comes
gonna
creeping
ward
toward them.
it's creeping death. I mean, I would
He
have her
is a
ward
boss,
every
man.
part
He's
of
always
me.
like, oh, I got a solution for this.
But she can't do anything. She can just warn them. By the way, that giant thing in the lake is
coming.
now heading toward us.
It's coming. We can't
What are
defeat it
you
because
gonna
every
do?
evil will come for us.
Right.
But it's coming.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So good.
Get ready to poop in your pants because it's coming.
So that's
I will
That's-
warn you about these.
that is my thing that
so
leveled up
creepy.
this week.
I love that.
And I
love that.
imagine the blight just reeks.
It does.
well,
Well,
yeah.
he mentions
People
the
are
fact that he
throwing
tries
up.
to breathe through his
Right.
mouth, and instead it tastes
like-
like
it's
rotting
like-
meat.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
It's-
I would be in utter hell because I can't. I have such a distorted sense of smell, I would just be vomiting left and right. I would not be able to. I would not be one of the heroes of the Horn. Not me.
It's a really good description. And then also
Rotting meat. Oh,
this green man, apparently Moraine had met him before.
yeah. And she's going back to try to find him again, which isn't really supposed to happen.
Right. It was apparently
you can't
impossible.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
Except she says it's
And then
not about.
Loyal's
about
talking about
need.
the Ogier that have done it.
Right. But they've
Crazy.
only done it once.
You were bringing up the fact about the people from the rivers.
The children of the corn.
And there's a very nice moment at the end between Rand and Egwene, and he says, like, but a man could drown in those eyes and be happy doing it. So there's just, there's still that little, like, love affair between
There is,
them
but
going
I
on
feel
that
like
just doesn't seem like it's going to end well.
no. Rand keeps paying attention to that Min statement.
Yep.
It's
yeah.
really stuck in his head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be aware that
She's not
there's
for you.
some sort
at
of
least not like how you want it.
interruptus coming for that relationship shortly.
Well, he's got good reason for that because he's heard some other of her predictions that have come true.
Yeah.
I think we've only seen one come true
I don't
so
know if
far,
they-
and that's
the-
the wolf.
yeah.
and
We've seen
Perrin.
Tom. We've seen the Three Towers. And
We've seen it, but I don't know if they, as the characters, if Rand has paid attention to it.
No, they learned. Well, he learned. Well, maybe he hasn't. But hearing like about a babe born with a sword in his hand.
Right. In the grand scheme of what Rand's paying attention to, that she said he might not. And good point. Yeah, I
He
mean, that's
may
another
not.
one of
He's
Min's
had some
prophecies that
other
we've just seen
stuff
fulfilled in
happen.
terms of finding out about Lan.
Yeah, he's got. I would have forgotten it. I'll tell
Yeah,
you that much.
absolutely.
We can
Green
get
Man.
into that
Tom
more
Bombadil.
next week when we are only going to have 5 chapters to read, and it is the end of the book.
There's going to be a lot. Well, maybe. We don't know. We don't know how this book ends.
Well, there
but
needs to be a
something
lot
has
that,
to happen.
Yeah, there needs to be a lot that has to happen here. So join us next week when we will cover chapters 49 through 53 and finish the book. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.